My daughter said, "Stop interfering in my life. I'm an adult now." I just smiled. A year later, she came. "Mom, I have nowhere to live. My husband left." Then I looked at her and said, "I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled." My name is Margaret, and for 63 years, I lived a quiet, predictable life in suburban Connecticut. My husband Robert passed away 5 years ago, leaving me our modest 3-bedroom house and enough savings to live comfortably. I had one daughter, Emily, whom I raised to be independent and strong, or so I thought. Emily had always been headstrong. Even as a child, she refused help with homework, insisted on choosing her own clothes, made her own mistakes. I admired that spirit. I truly did. But when she turned 28 and brought home Derek, something in my stomach twisted with an instinct I couldn't name. Derek was charming, too charming. He worked in real estate investment, though the details were always vague. He drove a leased BMW and wore expensive watches. At family dinners, he dominated conversations, always steering them back to his successes, his deals, his vision for the future. Emily gazed at him like he'd hung the moon. I tried to be supportive. What mother wants to be the cliché who disapproves of her daughter's boyfriend? But small things bothered me. The way Derek corrected Emily in public, how he'd check her phone, just joking around. The fact that Emily stopped calling me as often, stopped visiting on Sundays like she used to. 6 months into their relationship, Emily announced they were engaged. I swallowed my concerns and threw her a small engagement party in my backyard. That afternoon, I overheard Derek on his phone in my kitchen. "Don't worry, baby," he said quietly. "This is temporary. Once we're married, I'll have access to her trust fund, and we can do whatever we want." My blood ran cold. Emily's grandfather had left her $50,000, accessible only after marriage or her 30th birthday. I'd almost forgotten about it. I pulled Emily aside that evening. "Honey, I need to talk to you about Derek." Her face immediately closed off. "Mom, don't start." "I'm not starting anything. I just think you should slow down. Maybe wait." "Wait for what? Until you approve? I'm not a child anymore." "I never said you were. I just want you to be careful with your heart, with your future. You don't even know him. You've decided he's not good enough because he's not like Dad, because he's confident and ambitious instead of safe and boring." The words hit like a slap. Robert had been many things, but boring? "Emily, that's not fair." "No, Mom. What's not fair is you trying to control my life. I'm 28 years old. I can make my own decisions." I took a breath, trying to stay calm. "Of course you can. But as your mother, I have a right to share my concerns." "Concerns?" She laughed bitterly. "You mean judgments. You've been judging Derek since the moment you met him. Well, I'm marrying him whether you like it or not. And if you can't be happy for me, maybe you shouldn't come to the wedding." I stood there in my own kitchen, stunned. "Emily, I mean it, Mom. Stop interfering in my life. I'm an adult. Start treating me like one." She left that night with Derek, his hand possessively on her lower back. I watched their taillights disappear and felt something break inside my chest. The wedding happened 3 months later. I attended, smiled, stayed quiet. I watched Emily sign papers at Derek's insistence, watched him whisper in her ear constantly, watched my daughter transform into someone I barely recognized. After the reception, I hugged her goodbye. "If you ever need anything," I whispered, "I'm here." She pulled back, her smile tight. "I won't need anything, Mom. I have Derek now." And that was it. Months passed. Emily's calls became rare, then stopped altogether. I saw photos on social media of vacations I couldn't afford, Designer bags, restaurant meals that cost more than my weekly groceries. She looked happy. Maybe I'd been wrong. Until one Tuesday afternoon, exactly 13 months after that argument in my kitchen. I was folding laundry when my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Emily standing on my porch, no car in the driveway, a single suitcase at her feet. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her designer clothes hung loose on a frame that had lost at least 15 pounds. "Mom," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I have nowhere else to go. Derek left me. The apartment was his. Everything was his. I don't have any money. I need help." She looked at me with desperate, pleading eyes, the same eyes that had told me to stop interfering, that she was an adult who didn't need her mother. I stood in my doorway, looking at my broken daughter, and for just a moment, just one moment, I let the silence stretch between us. Then I smiled. "Come in, Emily," I said finally, stepping aside. She collapsed onto my old sofa, the same one she'd sat on as a teenager, and the tears came in waves. I made tea, chamomile, her childhood favorite, and waited. I'd learned over 6 decades that sometimes people need silence before they can speak. When she finally calmed enough to talk, the story spilled out in broken fragments. Derek had been unfaithful from the start. Multiple women. He'd drained her trust fund within weeks of the wedding, claiming it was for investments that never materialized. He'd put all their bills in her name, maxing out credit cards she didn't know existed. When she confronted him, he'd simply laughed. "He said I was stupid to sign everything without reading it," Emily whispered, staring at her tea. "He said no one would believe me because I signed voluntarily. Then he told me to leave, just like that. 'Get out,' he said. 'This apartment is mine. Everything's mine. You signed it all away.'" My hands tightened around my own mug. "Where have you been staying?" "A friend's couch for 2 weeks, but I can't stay there anymore." "Mom, I'm so sorry. You were right about everything, and I was horrible to you, and I have no right to be here." "Hush," I said firmly. "You're my daughter. You'll always have a right to be here." She cried again then, and I held her like I did when she was small. But inside, behind my calm exterior, something cold and calculating was beginning to form. I'd spent a year respecting her choices, staying silent, letting her live her life. And this was the result? That night, after Emily fell asleep in her old bedroom, I sat at my kitchen table and made a list. The losses were staggering. $50,000 trust fund. Gone. Emily's credit. Destroyed. She showed me statements totaling $78,000 in debt. Her car, repossessed. Her job, lost. Derek had convinced her to quit and focus on their future. Her savings, $12,000 spent on their lifestyle. Her confidence, shattered 1 year of her life, wasted on a con artist. $140,000 in total damages, plus interest, plus emotional trauma. I'd been a high school English teacher for 37 years. I'd dealt with bullies, manipulators, and entitled parents who thought rules didn't apply to their children. I'd learned to be patient, strategic, and above all, thorough. Derek thought he'd won. He thought Emily was alone, broken, defeated. He'd forgotten about me. The next morning, while Emily slept, I called my lawyer, Richard Chen. We'd handled Robert's estate together, and he'd always been straight with me. "Margaret, good to hear from you. What can I do?" "I need to understand something about fraud and coercion in marriage," I said calmly. Richard was quiet for a moment. "Is this about Emily?" "Yes. Tell me everything." I did. Every detail Emily had shared, plus my own observations from before the wedding. Richard listened without interrupting. "Here's the reality," he said finally. Proving financial coercion after the fact is extremely difficult. If she signed documents voluntarily, even under emotional manipulation, we'd have a hard time in court. However, and this is important, if Derek misrepresented what she was signing, if he committed actual fraud, that's different. How do we prove fraud? We need documentation, bank records, emails, text messages, anything showing he deliberately deceived her about what she was signing or where the money was going. Do you have access to any of that? Not yet, I said. But I will. Margaret, Richard warned, be careful. Don't do anything illegal. No breaking into accounts, no stealing documents. Richard, I taught teenagers for almost 40 years. I know how to gather information legally. After we hung up, I made my first plan. It was simple. Emily needed to stabilize first. She couldn't fight from a position of weakness. She needed food, rest, medical attention. She looked malnourished, and therapy. She needed to rebuild her sense of self before we could tackle Derek. But while she healed, I would investigate. I started with public records, marriage certificate, property records, business registrations. I'd always been good at research. It was part of my job, teaching students how to find credible sources. What I found in just 3 hours shocked me. Derek's real estate investment company didn't exist, not legally. There was no LLC, no business license, no tax records. The apartment he'd kicked Emily out of? It was actually a rental, not owned. And according to property records, the lease was in Emily's name only. He'd lied about ownership, which meant Emily had legal rights to that apartment. I sat back in my chair, a small smile crossing my face. Derek had made his first mistake. He'd assumed I was just a helpless old woman who'd let him destroy my daughter. How wrong he was. 3 days later, Emily was strong enough to join me at Richard's office. She'd been eating regularly, sleeping 12 hours a night, and crying less. The color was returning to her face. Richard's office was downtown, in one of those modern buildings with too much glass. He greeted us warmly, but his expression turned serious once we sat down. Emily, I need you to be completely honest with me. When Derek had you sign documents, did he explain what they were? Emily shook her head, shame coloring her cheeks. He said they were just formalities, marriage stuff. I trusted him. Did you read them before signing? Some of them, but he'd put them in front of me while we were watching TV, or right before we went out. He'd say, just sign here, babe. We're running late. I thought. She trailed off. You thought he was your husband and had your best interests at heart, Richard finished gently. That's not stupidity, Emily. That's trust. And he exploited it. He slid a folder across his desk. This is what I've found so far. The apartment lease is in your name only. You have every legal right to be there. He committed an illegal eviction when he forced you out. Emily's eyes widened. But he said it was his. He lied. The landlord confirmed you're the sole leaseholder. Derek was never on the lease. Can she go back? I asked. Absolutely. And she should, as soon as possible, to establish residency. If Derek's there, she can call the police to escort her in safely. Emily looked terrified. I can't face him. I can't. You won't be alone, I said firmly. I'll be with you. That afternoon, we drove to the apartment. It was in a trendy neighborhood I couldn't afford, with a doorman and marble lobby. Emily's hands shook as we rode the elevator to the 8th floor. I'd called ahead to have a police officer meet us. Officer Patricia Rodriguez was waiting in the hallway, professional and calm. Ms. Sullivan? She asked Emily. I understand you're the leaseholder and you were illegally locked out? Emily nodded, unable to speak. Let's get you back inside. She knocked firmly. Police, open the door. Footsteps. Then Derek's voice. What the hell? The door swung open. Derek stood there in expensive loungewear, his expression morphing from annoyance to shock when he saw Emily. What is she doing here? I'm Officer Rodriguez. Miss Sullivan is the leaseholder of this apartment. She has every right to be here. Are you Derek Morrison? Yes, but this is my apartment. No, sir, it's not. It's Ms. Sullivan's apartment. You're currently residing here without being on the lease. Ms. Sullivan, would you like to enter? Emily stepped forward, her voice barely a whisper. Yes. Derek's face flushed red. Then he saw me standing behind Emily, and something flickered in his eyes. Recognition. Calculation. Margaret, he said smoothly, switching tactics instantly. I'm glad you're here. This is all a misunderstanding. Emily and I had a fight. Things got heated. You told her to leave her own apartment, I said coldly. You stole her inheritance. You destroyed her credit. That's not a misunderstanding. That's fraud. His smile hardened. I don't know what lies she's told you, but Emily and I are working things out. This is between us. Family business. She's my family, I said quietly. You're nothing. For just a second, his mask slipped. I saw the rage underneath, the contempt. Then he smiled again. Emily, baby, come on. Your mom's poisoning your mind against me. We can fix this. I love you. Emily looked at him, and I saw her waver. God help me. I saw her actually consider believing him. Emily, I said softly, touching her arm. Look around. Really look. She stepped further into the apartment. Officer Rodriguez close behind. I followed. The living room was a mess. But it wasn't bachelor mess. There were women's things everywhere, a different woman's things. A red coat Emily would never wear. Size 6 shoes when Emily was a size 8. Makeup on the coffee table. A hair tie on the arm of the couch. Emily picked up a framed photo from the side table. It was Derek with his arm around a beautiful blonde woman. They were kissing. The photo was dated from 3 weeks ago. Who is she? Emily's voice was steel now, all uncertainty gone. Derek didn't answer. Emily walked to the bedroom. We followed. The bed was unmade. More women's clothes. A purse on the dresser. Emily opened it and pulled out a wallet with an ID. Melissa Grant, Emily read aloud. She turned to Derek. Is this who you've been living with since you kicked me out of my own apartment? Derek crossed his arms. Emily, don't be dramatic. Get out! The words exploded from her with a force that surprised us all. Even Officer Rodriguez stepped back. Get out of my apartment right now, or I will have you arrested for trespassing. Derek's expression went cold. All pretense vanished. You'll regret this, he said quietly. Both of you. I have friends, connections. You have no idea who you're messing with. Is that a threat? Officer Rodriguez asked sharply. Derek grabbed a jacket and pushed past us. At the door, he turned back. That trust fund? That was just the beginning. I know things about you, Emily, things that could ruin you. And your mother? He looked at me. You should have stayed out of this, old woman. Now you're in it. And I promise you'll wish you'd minded your own business. He slammed the door behind him. Emily collapsed onto the couch, shaking. Officer Rodriguez took notes. I stood very still, processing Derek's words. We'd just passed the point of no return, and I was ready. Over the next week, Emily and I moved forward with military precision. She changed all the locks on the apartment. I helped her file a police report for the illegal eviction and financial coercion. Richard began the process of requesting credit investigations and fraud claims. But I knew Derek wouldn't disappear quietly. Men like him never do. I was right. On day 8, Emily received the first email. It arrived at 3 a.m., waking her with its notification sound. She came into my bedroom, I'd been staying with her in the apartment, with her phone, her face pale. Mom, look. The email was from an anonymous account. No subject line, Just a message. Drop the fraud claims or everyone will know what you really are. Remember Atlantic City? Remember what you did? I have proof. 48 hours. Emily's hands trembled. Mom, I don't understand. Atlantic City? I've never even been to Atlantic City. It's a bluff, I said firmly, though my heart was racing. He's trying to scare you. But what if he fabricated something? What if he created fake evidence? She had a point. In this digital age, anything could be manufactured. The next day, it got worse. Emily's phone rang constantly, blocked numbers, hang-ups. Then the texts started. Photos of her from when she and Derek were together, but edited to look compromising. Photoshopped images that suggested infidelity, drug use, things that never happened. He's going to send these to everyone I know, Emily whispered, scrolling through them. My former colleagues, my friends, everyone. Let him, I said, though anger was burning in my chest. Anyone who knows you will see through it. But that night, the attack escalated. I was in Emily's kitchen making tea when someone knocked on the door. Hard, aggressive. Emily looked at me with frightened eyes. Don't answer it, she whispered. The knocking continued. Then a voice. Emily, I know you're in there. We need to talk. Derek. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Derek wasn't alone. 2 men stood with him, both large, both looking like they'd stepped out of a mob movie. I called 911 immediately, speaking quietly. This is Margaret Sullivan. A man who was illegally evicted is at my daughter's apartment with 2 other men, attempting to force entry. We need police at... The door shook with a violent kick. Emily, Derek shouted. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Just drop the claims and we're done. Keep pushing and things get ugly for both of you. The police are on their way, I called through the door, my voice steady. You need to leave now. Derek laughed. Your mother's cute, Emily, thinking the cops care about your little civil dispute. No one's coming to save you. This ends when I say it ends. Another kick. The doorframe cracked slightly. Emily was on her phone recording everything. Smart girl. Then I heard it. Sirens. Derek heard them too. This isn't over, he shouted. You want to play hardball? Fine, but you have no idea what I'm capable of. No idea what I'll do to protect myself. Drop it, Emily. Drop everything or I will destroy both of you. Footsteps retreating. Running. When the police arrived 2 minutes later, Derek and his friends were gone. But Emily had the recording. The threats were documented. Officer Rodriguez returned, along with another officer. They took statements, reviewed the recording, and I watched their expressions shift from routine call to serious concern. Ma'am, we're going to recommend you file for a restraining order, Officer Rodriguez said. These threats are escalating. This man is dangerous. That night, after the police left, Emily and I sat in silence. The apartment felt less like a victory and more like a target. Mom, Emily finally said, maybe we should drop it. Maybe it's not worth it. I looked at my daughter. 29 years old, brilliant, capable, and terrified of a man who'd already taken so much from her. No, I said firmly. That's exactly what he wants. He's counting on you being too scared to fight back. But Emily, bullies only have the power we give them. But what if he really hurts us? Then he goes to prison. But we don't stop. We don't surrender. Because if you back down now, he wins. Not just now, but forever. You'll spend your whole life afraid of him. Emily nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. Okay, we keep going. We filed for the restraining order the next morning. Richard also advised we needed to move faster on the fraud investigation. We needed concrete evidence before Derek could destroy it all. But the encounter had shaken both of us more than I wanted to admit. That weekend, I insisted we leave the city. We drove to my house in Connecticut, locked all the doors, and for 3 days, we did nothing but rest. We watched old movies. I made Emily's favorite foods from childhood. We didn't talk about Derek, about courts, about any of it. We just breathed. By Monday morning, I felt steadier, clearer, ready. Derek had shown his hand. He was violent, threatened, capable of intimidation. But he'd also made a critical mistake. He'd underestimated what a mother would do to protect her child. On Tuesday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Hello? Margaret. Derek's voice was smooth, calm, completely different from his rage at the apartment. I think we got off on the wrong foot. I put the phone on speaker so Emily could hear. She tensed beside me. I don't think we did, I replied evenly. I think I saw you exactly as you are. He chuckled. You're protective of your daughter. I respect that. I really do. That's why I'm calling. I want to make things right. By threatening us, by bringing thugs to intimidate Emily, I was upset. I handled things poorly. But Margaret, think about this rationally. Legal battles are expensive, emotionally draining. And for what? The money's gone, spent. You can't get it back. The credit issues? Those take years to resolve anyway. Why put Emily through more trauma? Because you're a criminal, I said simply. That's harsh. I'm a businessman who made some aggressive financial decisions in a marriage. Happens every day. Most couples work it out quietly. Most husbands don't steal their wife's inheritance and kick them out of their own apartment. Silence. Then, what if I could make this worth your while? My stomach turned. Excuse me? I have resources, Margaret. Real resources. What if I paid Emily, let's say $20,000, cash, right now, to drop everything? She gets some money back. I avoid a legal mess. Everyone moves on. Clean break. Emily's eyes went wide. 20,000 would help her tremendously. I could see the temptation flicker across her face. No, I said. Margaret, be reasonable. He stole 50,000, destroyed 78,000 in credit, and you're offering 20? That's not compensation. That's an insult. It's more than she'll get from a court case. You know how these things go. Lawyers' fees alone will eat up any judgment. I'm offering cash now, no strings attached. Except the string where Emily has to let you get away with fraud. Derek's tone hardened slightly. I'm trying to be nice here. No, you're trying to avoid consequences. The answer is no. Put Emily on the phone. No. Margaret, this is her decision, not yours. And she's nodding her head right now, agreeing with me. We're not interested in your bribe, Derek. Goodbye. I hung up. Emily exhaled shakily. Mom, $20,000. Would be wonderful, I finished. But it would also be giving in. And he'd know he could buy his way out of anything. No, sweetheart. We're doing this the right way. 10 minutes later, Derek called again. I didn't answer. He called 5 more times. Then the text started. 30,000. Final offer. You're making a mistake. 40,000. That's more than you'll ever get from court. Margaret, you're being unreasonable. Fine, have it your way. But don't say I didn't try. I blocked his number, but I knew he wasn't done. Men like Derek don't accept no easily. For the next 3 days, nothing happened. No calls, no visits, no threats. The silence was almost worse than the harassment. I knew he was out there, planning something. Emily and I needed support, and we needed it badly. The isolation was getting to both of us. I called my sister, Janet, who lived in Boston. She was 2 years older than me, sharp as a tack, and had worked as a social worker for 30 years. I trusted her implicitly. Come visit, Janet said immediately after I explained the situation. Both of you. You need to be around family. We drove to Boston that Friday. Janet's house was warm, filled with the smell of her famous pot roast. Her husband, Tom, greeted us with tight hugs. "You're safe here," he said simply, and I believed him. That weekend, Janet helped Emily in ways I couldn't. As a social worker, she'd seen countless abuse cases, countless women who'd been financially exploited by partners. "This isn't your fault," Janet told Emily as they sat on the back porch drinking coffee. "Coercive control is real. It's psychological abuse. You were in a manipulative relationship with someone who systematically isolated you and exploited your trust." "I should have seen it," Emily whispered. "He was trained to hide it. That's what con artists do. They find good, trusting people and exploit those exact qualities. Your kindness isn't weakness, Emily. It's what makes you human." I watched from the kitchen window as my daughter cried in my sister's arms, finally allowing herself to grieve not just the money, but the betrayal, the lost time, the person she'd thought Derek was. That night, Janet pulled me aside. "You're doing the right thing, fighting this," she said. "But Margaret, be careful. Men like this, when cornered, they get desperate. Promise me you'll stay vigilant. I promise. And promise me you won't let him win. Not because of fear, not because it's easier. Emily's watching you. She's learning that women can fight back." I hugged my sister tightly. "Thank you. That's what family does." We returned to Connecticut on Monday morning, refreshed, supported, and ready. Derek had tried to buy us off, tried to make us doubt ourselves. But we were stronger than he knew, and we weren't alone. Wednesday afternoon, I was at my house in Connecticut doing laundry when the doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw a sleek black car in my driveway. My chest tightened. I opened the door to find Derek standing on my porch. But this wasn't the enraged man who'd kicked Emily's door. This Derek wore a crisp suit, held a bouquet of flowers, and smiled warmly. "Margaret, I was hoping we could talk. Just the two of us." Every instinct screamed to slam the door. But I'd dealt with manipulative people before. Running showed fear. "Emily isn't here," I said coolly. "I know. I came to talk to you. May I come in? 5 minutes, that's all I ask." Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. But I left the front door wide open and kept my phone in my hand, 911 already dialed, finger hovering over the call button. Derek sat on my sofa, looking around at my modest living room with barely concealed contempt. "Cozy place. What do you want, Derek?" He set the flowers on my coffee table. "To apologize. I've been acting poorly. The stress of the divorce, of losing Emily, it made me do things I regret. You're not divorced yet. A technicality. Margaret, I loved your daughter. I still do. This whole situation got out of hand because emotions ran high." I said nothing, just watched him. "I know you think I'm some kind of villain, but I'm not. I'm just a man who made mistakes in a complicated relationship. Emily and I both did things we regret. Emily didn't steal anything." His smile tightened. "She told you her version of events. There are always two sides. The bank records only show one side. The truth." Derek leaned forward, his expression shifting to something more earnest. "Margaret, you seem like a reasonable woman, intelligent. You taught school for years, right? You understand how the world works. So, let me be frank with you. Please do. This legal battle you're pushing Emily into, it's going to destroy her. The court costs, the public embarrassment, the stress. And for what? Even if she wins, which is unlikely, she'll get maybe 10, 20 cents on the dollar. Meanwhile, her name will be dragged through the mud. Her reputation ruined. Is that what you want for your daughter? I want justice. Derek laughed, and for the first time, I heard the cruelty in it. Justice? Margaret, there's no justice in civil court. There's only money and power, and I have both. You're a fake businessman with no legitimate company. I have lawyers, very good lawyers, and connections you can't imagine. I can make this case drag on for years. I can file countersuit after countersuit. I can make Emily's life a living hell. He leaned back, spreading his arms. Or you could convince her to drop this. Let me go, move on. I'll even sweeten the deal, $50,000, the exact amount of the trust fund. We call it even. You've already offered 40. See? You are practical. 50,000, Margaret. That's real money for people like you. You could retire comfortably. Emily could start fresh. All you have to do is tell her to stop. I stood up. Get out of my house. Derek didn't move. His expression shifted again, the mask of civility cracking. You're making a mistake. I said get out. You're a foolish old woman who doesn't understand the game she's playing. His voice went cold. Do you know what I do to people who threaten me? I destroy them, completely. Emily's just the start. I know where you live, obviously. I know you're on a fixed income. I know you have a mortgage on this house. I can make things very, very difficult for you. I walked to the door and pulled it wider. Leave now, or I'm calling the police. Derek stood slowly, buttoning his suit jacket. You think you're protecting your daughter, but you're leading her to destruction. And when she loses everything, and she will, she'll blame you. Not me. You. He walked to the door, then paused. Last chance, Margaret. 50,000. Tell her to drop it. Her. Never. His eyes went dead. Then you've chosen war. And in war, people get hurt. I promise you, you're going to regret this. He left, and I locked the door behind him with shaking hands. I waited until his car disappeared before I collapsed onto the sofa, my heart hammering. The fear was real. He'd been in my home, invaded my space, made threats against both Emily and me. But as I sat there, something else rose up through the fear. Rage. Pure, cold, clarifying rage. Derek thought he could intimidate me, thought he could buy me, thought that because I was a 63-year-old woman living alone, I was weak. He'd never been more wrong. I picked up my phone and called Richard. We need to move faster, I said when he answered. Derek just came to my house and threatened me. He's escalating. Are you all right? I'm perfect, I said, and I meant it. How quickly can we get a court date? Let me make some calls. I hung up and stared at the flowers Derek had left on my coffee table. Expensive roses, probably cost $60. I threw them in the trash. The war Derek wanted? He was about to get it. 2 weeks later, we sat in a downtown courtroom. Emily's fraud case was being heard before Judge Patricia O'Connor, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and a reputation for not tolerating nonsense. Richard had worked miracles getting us here this quickly. The restraining order had been granted, but Derek had violated it twice. Once by calling Emily from a different number, once by showing up at her apartment building. Each violation was documented. Derek sat across the courtroom with his lawyer, Marcus Webb, an expensive attorney in a $5,000 suit. Derek looked calm, confident, even bored. I sat behind Emily in the gallery, watching everything. The hearing began with Richard presenting our case: the trust fund theft, the fraudulent signatures, the credit card debt, the coercion, the threats. He'd assembled it all beautifully, creating a timeline that showed Derek's systematic exploitation of Emily. Marcus Webb objected repeatedly. Your Honor, these were marital financial decisions made jointly. Where Ms. Sullivan didn't know what she was signing, Richard countered. That's not joint decision-making. That's fraud. Judge O'Connor studied the documents. Mr. Webb, your client had Ms. Sullivan sign over power of attorney 3 days after their wedding. Then he drained her trust fund in less than a week. How is that joint decision-making? Your Honor, Ms. Sullivan is a grown woman who voluntarily signed legal documents. While being told they were just formalities, Richard interrupted. We have testimony to that effect. The judge nodded. Continue. Then came the moment Richard and I had been planning. He called his first witness, Melissa Grant, the woman whose ID Emily had found in the apartment. Derek's confident expression cracked slightly. Melissa took the stand, young and nervous. I met Derek 8 months ago at a club. He told me he was single, successful. He moved me into his apartment 4 months ago. His apartment? Richard asked. That's what he said. He told me he owned it. Were you aware he was married? No. Not until recently when his wife, Ms. Sullivan, showed up and I realized he'd been lying to both of us. What happened to the money Mr. Morrison claimed to have? Melissa hesitated. He told me he was investing it, but he bought a boat instead, a 40-foot yacht. It's docked in Marina del Rey under a business name. The courtroom stirred. Richard submitted photographs of the yacht, registration papers. Derek had spent $25,000 of Emily's money on a boat and hidden it under a shell company. Derek whispered urgently to Marcus Webb. His calm was evaporating, but Richard wasn't done. His next witness was a forensic accountant named Dr. Sarah Chen, who'd traced Derek's financial activities. Mr. Morrison has engaged in a pattern of financial fraud, Dr. Chen testified. He's targeted 3 other women in the past 5 years with similar schemes. Each time he married quickly, gained access to their assets, then disappeared with their money. Objection! Marcus Webb jumped up. Those cases are irrelevant. They establish a pattern of behavior, Your Honor, Richard said calmly. Mr. Morrison isn't just a man who made mistakes in one marriage. He's a serial con artist. Judge O'Connor's expression hardened. Overruled. Continue, Dr. Chen. Dr. Chen provided documentation on 3 previous victims. Each story was nearly identical to Emily's: whirlwind romance, quick marriage, access to money, systematic theft, abandonment. The amounts ranged from $30,000 to $75,000. Total, approximately $180,000 stolen from 4 women over 5 years. Derek's face had gone red. He was whispering frantically to his lawyer, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. Your Honor, Marcus Webb said, we request a recess. Denied, Judge O'Connor said sharply. Mr. Morrison, you have an opportunity to testify in your own defense if you wish. Derek stood, smoothing his suit. He took the stand with visible effort to appear calm. Richard cross-examined him. Mr. Morrison, did you tell Ms. Sullivan what she was signing when you presented her with power of attorney documents? I explained what was necessary. Yes or no? Did you tell her specifically that she was giving you complete control of her trust fund? Pause. Not in those exact words. Did you tell Ms. Sullivan about Melissa Grant? My personal life, yes or no? No. Did you tell Ms. Sullivan that you were buying a yacht with her inheritance money? Derek's jaw tightened. It was an investment. A 40-foot pleasure yacht is not an investment, Mr. Morrison. It's a toy. Did you tell her? No. Did you tell the 3 other women you married before Ms. Sullivan that you were stealing their money? Objection! Marcus Webb practically shouted. Harassment! Sustained, Judge O'Connor said. But Mr. Morrison, I advise you to answer the next question very carefully. Richard leaned forward. Mr. Morrison, are you a con artist who systematically targets vulnerable women, marries them to access their assets, then discards them? The courtroom was silent. Derek's mask finally shattered completely. Those women were stupid. They handed me their money. Emily was stupid. All of them deserved. He caught himself, but too late. Judge O'Connor's gavel came down hard. Mr. Morrison, I've heard enough. Derek's lawyer put his head in his hands. I sat in the gallery, watching Derek realize he'd destroyed himself, and I smiled. Judge O'Connor removed her glasses and stared at Derek with open disgust. Mr. Morrison, in 30 years on the bench, I've seen many things, but rarely have I seen someone so blatantly admit to fraud and show such contempt for his victims. She shuffled through papers. Based on the evidence presented and your own testimony, I'm ruling in favor of Ms. Sullivan on all counts. Emily's hand found mine. She was shaking. You are ordered to repay the full $50,000 of Ms. Sullivan's trust fund, plus $78,000 in fraudulent credit card debt that you incurred in her name. Additionally, you will pay $50,000 in punitive damages for your pattern of predatory behavior. Total, $178,000, payable immediately. Derek's face went white. Your Honor, I don't have... Then you'll liquidate assets, starting with that yacht Dr. Chen mentioned. I'm also referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for criminal fraud prosecution. She looked at the bailiff. Please have Mr. Morrison taken into custody pending criminal investigation. Your Honor, Marcus Webb stood. We request bail. Denied. Mr. Morrison has demonstrated he's a flight risk with a pattern of targeting and exploiting women across multiple states. Bailiff. 2 officers approached Derek. For a moment, he looked like he might run. Then reality set in. They handcuffed him, and I watched the man who'd terrorized my daughter being led out of the courtroom. He looked back once at Emily, not with remorse, with pure hatred. Emily watched him go, tears streaming down her face. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief. The next 3 months were a whirlwind. The criminal investigation revealed even more victims, 6 in total, spanning 7 years. Derek had stolen over $300,000 from vulnerable women. The media picked up the story. Serial con artist targets women through romance. Derek's assets were seized. The yacht was sold, his bank accounts were frozen, his fake companies were dissolved. When everything was liquidated, there wasn't enough to cover what he owed all 6 women. But Emily received 80% of her judgment, $142,000. More importantly, Derek was convicted of fraud, identity theft, and financial elder abuse. One victim had been 62. He was sentenced to 8 years in state prison. 8 years. I attended the sentencing with Emily. Derek looked smaller somehow, diminished in his orange jumpsuit. When the judge pronounced sentence, he finally broke. "This isn't fair," he shouted. "Those women chose to trust me. I didn't force them." "No," Judge O'Connor said coldly. "You just lied to them, manipulated them, and stole from them. That's worse than force. That's betrayal." 8 years, Mr. Morrison. Maybe you'll learn something about consequences. As they led him away, Derek's eyes found mine one last time. I stared back, unflinching. You underestimated a mother's love, I thought, and now you'll pay for it. Outside the courthouse, Emily and I stood in the sunshine. She'd gained back the weight she'd lost. Her eyes were clear. Her spine was straight. "Mom," she said, "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me. You did this. You testified. You stood up to him. You fought back." "But I couldn't have done it without you. When I came to your door that day, broken and ashamed, you could have turned me away. You could have said, 'I told you so.' Instead, you fought for me." I hugged her tightly. "That's what mothers do." "No," Emily said firmly. "That's what you do. Not all mothers would have done this. You're special, Mom. You're a warrior." We drove back to Connecticut that afternoon. Emily had decided to move back home with me while she rebuilt her life and credit. The apartment held too many bad memories. Over dinner that night, Emily said, "I start my new job Monday. Marketing coordinator at a nonprofit. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. That's all that matters." And Mom, I've been thinking about everything, about Derek, about the other women he hurt, about how close I came to losing everything. She paused. I want to help other women, women who are in situations like I was. I'm thinking about volunteering at the Domestic Violence Center, using my experience to help others see the warning signs. Pride swelled in my chest. Emily, that's wonderful. I learned from the best, she said, smiling at me. You taught me that fighting back matters, that standing up to bullies, even when you're scared, is worth it. I want to pass that lesson on. That night, after Emily went to bed, I sat in my kitchen with tea, thinking about the past months. The fear, the fight, the victory. Derek had tried to destroy my daughter. Instead, he'd destroyed himself. And Emily, she was stronger than ever. Justice wasn't just done, it was complete. 18 months after the trial, I stood in Emily's new apartment, a bright, sunny 2-bedroom she'd rented herself, with her own money from her job, and watched her hang artwork on the walls. A little to the left, I said. She adjusted the frame and stepped back. Perfect. Everything about Emily's life was different now. She'd been promoted twice at the nonprofit, now managing their entire digital marketing department. She'd paid off the fraudulent credit card debt with the settlement money and was rebuilding her credit score systematically. She'd started therapy and worked through the trauma of Derek's manipulation. Most importantly, she'd rediscovered herself. Coffee? She offered, moving to her kitchen. Always. As she prepared the pot, I noticed a photo on her refrigerator. Emily, me, and Janet, taken at Thanksgiving last month. All 3 of us laughing, arms around each other. Family. I got something yesterday, Emily said, pulling an envelope from her bag. I thought you should see it. Inside was a letter from one of Derek's other victims, a woman named Sandra who'd testified at his trial. Dear Emily, I wanted to write and tell you how much your courage meant to me. Watching you stand up to Derek gave me strength to testify too. Because of you, I finally got closure. I've started over, just like you. I'm in school now, studying accounting. I figure if I understand money better, no one can ever take advantage of me again. Thank you for fighting. Thank you for showing us all that we deserved better. With gratitude, Sandra. Emily's eyes shimmered. 3 other women have written to me, all of them saying similar things, that watching the trial helped them. You're making a difference, I said softly. We're making a difference, she corrected. You started this, Mom. You could have let me stay broken. You chose to fight. The conversation shifted to lighter topics. Her work, my garden, Janet's upcoming retirement party. Normal, everyday things. The kind of conversations we'd lost during her marriage to Derek. This was healing. This was victory. Meanwhile, Derek's life had collapsed entirely. I'd kept track, not out of vindictiveness, but out of vigilance. Men like Derek don't always stay contained. He was in Corcoran State Prison, serving his 8-year sentence. According to public records Richard helped me access, Derek had become a model of what not to be. He'd been written up for attempting to run financial scams even inside prison, trying to get other inmates to give him their commissary account information. He'd been placed in administrative segregation for his own protection after cheating another inmate out of money. Even criminals have codes, and Derek had violated them. His appeals had all been denied. His lawyer had dropped him after Derek couldn't pay his bills. His family, wealthy parents who'd enabled his behavior for years, had finally cut him off completely after the full extent of his crimes became public. Melissa Grant, the woman he'd been living with, had testified against him in exchange for immunity. She'd been conned too, though less severely. Last I heard, she'd moved to Oregon and started fresh. The yacht had been sold at auction for $15,000, far less than Derek paid for it. All his possessions, his expensive watches, his designer clothes, auctioned off. He'd lost everything. But more than that, he'd lost his power. The power to charm, manipulate, control. In prison, without his looks, his charisma, his ability to lie convincingly, he was nothing. Just another inmate serving time for fraud. I'd heard through Richard that Derek had tried to reach out to Emily twice from prison. Letters that were intercepted per the restraining order, which remained in effect. Both letters apparently blamed Emily for ruining his life and demanded she drop the criminal charges, which she couldn't do. The state was prosecuting him. Even in prison, he couldn't accept responsibility. 6 months ago, I'd attended a celebration dinner. The nonprofit where Emily worked had launched a new program, a financial literacy workshop for domestic violence survivors. Emily had designed it, using her own experience to help others. To Emily, Janet toasted, raising her glass, for turning pain into purpose. We all drank. Emily, me, Janet, Tom, and Richard, who'd become a family friend through this ordeal. I couldn't have done it without all of you, Emily said, especially you, Mom. You taught me that fighting back isn't just possible, it's necessary. Later that night, driving home, I thought about the past 2 years. The terror, the anger, the court battles, the victory. All of it had led to this. Emily thriving, Derek imprisoned, justice served. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Thank you for never giving up on me. I love you, Mom. I pulled over to respond properly. I will always fight for you. That's what mothers do. Love you forever. I sat in my car on the quiet Connecticut street, looking at my modest house, my simple life. Derek had tried to destroy my daughter. Instead, he'd destroyed himself. And we were free. So I looked at her that day on my porch and smiled. Not because I was cruel, but because I knew something she didn't yet. Sometimes we need to fall to learn how to stand. Here's what I learned. Protecting your children doesn't mean protecting them from consequences. It means standing beside them while they face those consequences and fight their way through. If someone manipulates you, it's not your fault, but healing is your responsibility. Never underestimate the power of a mother who loves her child. And sometimes, the best thing you can say isn't, I told you so. It's, I'm here. What would you have done in my place? Would you have fought, or would you have let him win? Think about it. If this story resonated with you, please share it. Someone out there needs to know they're not alone. Thank you for listening to my story.